Here we are at Fuji International Speedway for a very wet fifth round of the GT Asia Series, coming to a start. That is Vilander on the inside and Carlo Van Dam on the outside. Lock brakes deep, it's slippery into turn one. Contact between the Aston Martin of Richard Lyons and then with Kitasawa. It was Soucek that started that off, but then it continued on. Unfortunately, Sawa tagged and spun Max Visa, and that was game over for him and essentially game over for Sawa. There is Soucek returning to the pits, loses a wheel. That contact hasn't done anybody any good, made it very difficult for some of those guys to get back to the pits. You see the damage to Richard Lyons, so too to Kitasawa, who was ultimately forced to pit. Up front though, it was the guys that had dominated this event from opening practice. Carlo Van Dam on screen and the number one Clearwater Racing Ferrari of Tony Vilander. Andre Couto on screen there in the Triple F Racing Nissan, very, very quick. That is one of the leading GTM class cars. Jerry Wang leaving the pits. Once the pit stops had all been cleared, the stars were up the front. It was the Ferraris that were moving forward, the Clearwater cars, and Van Dam and Todd Petty. That is Hiroshi Hamaguchi having a spin. Then there was contact between Jeffrey Lee and Ferouz Fauzi, who had not completed his stop at that stage. Just touched the wall and managed to be able to continue back to pit lane, hand over to Zenlo, and they continued on. So not too much damage. Then it was George Chu in the wars in the Taiwan Top Speed Racing Team car, one of the front runners in the GTM class last year, back in the series here. The Australian Rod Salmon driving the young Nathan Antunis. Then it was the race leader, Todd Petty, running deep into turn 3. This was a passing move. Jackie Jung driving with Duncan Tappy had taken over third position. Hiroshi Hamaguchi taking over fourth position from Jackie Jung, who had been doing a great job in the wet in the Bentley. That is Sasaki and Delantha Malagamua. They were working their way through into the top 6. Then it was Richie Wee who came through. Brilliant job in the wet after starting that car from pit lane. Up front though, the battle continued all the way to the checkered flags. The same two cars that had dominated since opening practice, and a good result there for Todd Petty and Carlo Van Dam. And a very happy Ken Urata sharing another victory with Takuma Aoki from rear of field.
I've been waiting for this moment for, I think it's over 2 years, and definitely it's very proud and very happy that I am getting on top of the podium again, and it gives me a lot of inspiration for the next race and for the team as well.
An acceptable driving style from Sawa, because you cannot rejoin the race without to take a look of the racing line, especially in the fast corner, same as T4.
That was my fault. So I'm too much exciting when I went out. So I tried to come back to rejoin for the circuit too quick. So I wanna approach it for Carnival 8 AF course, but we had penalized after finish the race. So this is my fault.
Looks like it's gonna rain, so I hope my teammate Wing doesn't mind too much being second.
So I'm going to make sure he doesn't get that today. Not yet.
Well, here we are back at Fuji International Speedway in Japan for round 6 of the GT Asia Series. 2 minutes to go, people leaving the grid. You can see on the front row you have Hiroshi Hamaguchi on right of screen. He's now on left of screen there. That is Jonathan Venter, the pole sitter from round 2 of the championship back in South Korea earlier in the year. Both those cars have taken victories so far this year. Now we're back at Fuji, where we had the scene yesterday of very inclement weather. It started wet. A number of drivers looked at the option of wet weather control Michelin tyres, but in the end it was dry enough, funnily enough, despite being declared wet, for everybody to start on slicks. They had to make a change mid-race as the rain started to come back and intensify. And today it's very foggy is probably the right word. You can see the mist in the background. That's not actually light rain. People sitting in the grandstands. There have been 30,000 people in the stands here for the third event of the GT Asia Series for 2015. Very big crowd. The Japanese love their motorsport. Of course, a former F1 venue here at Fuji International Circuit. So a lot of big fans, very happy, but they're all sitting there in the stands at the moment. Can't see too many umbrellas, not too many people looking for cover. So hopefully we can get through this race without any more weather changes. So yesterday, of course, we saw a great race. Started around noon, and we had a great battle between the Ferrari of Carlo Van Dam and Todd Pitty, the Thai TP12 Racing, Singer Racing Ferrari 458, and that of the reigning champion with Tony Verlander, the Ferrari Factory World Endurance Championship star, alongside three-time GT Asia Series champion Mok Weng Sun. The action all happened off the start though. Bentleys and Aston Martin of Richard Lyons making contact on the run down to turn 1. That carried through to turn 3, which ultimately saw Kitasawa forced off the circuit after he tried an outside move on both Andy Soucek and Richard Lyons, who had made contact on the run into turn 1. They both had deflating tyres. Lyons understeered into the corner. Sawa was on the outside. He got forced wide. Unfortunately for him, when he rejoined, he took out the car that's on screen now, the red and yellow championship points leading car of Max Visa. I'll explain why Max Visa is behind the wheel of that car a little bit later on, and not the reigning points leader, Anthony Liu and Davide Rizzo. They're not here this weekend, so there has been a change of driver lineup, but the performance of the car has continued. Unfortunately, the performance of the car by the early part of race 1 yesterday wasn't so great. Max Visa was forced to park it with broken tie rods. The suspension in the right rear had failed, so he couldn't return to the pits, and that was the end of what promised to be a pretty impressive run for them. So they'll be looking to make amends today. You can see Young Zin, his co-driver, regular part of the NB team that ran, of course, Aston Martins last year. He's on the 3rd row. So after qualifying, it was a good run. But the session had dried slightly for second qualifying yesterday morning, and that saw an interesting end result. Jonathan Venter came through and claimed his second pole of the year. So yellow flags on, they're coming to the line. So it was Venter, Hamaguchi, Mok, Wee, Young Zin and Jeffrey Lee were the top 6 drivers after qualifying. When the lights go out, the drivers can go. The inside run, they need to be in slightly better formation than that. 1.5 kilometre main straight here at Fuji International Circuit. It's about 1/3 of the entire race length around the Japanese circuit. Coming to the line, in here the revs. Who's going to get the jump? Of course, Hamaguchi's won here before. Venter suffered a pretty tough run in race 1. We'll explain that too later. And there's Pitty going right up against the wall, yesterday's race winner. That's a big move on the look down to the inside into turn 1. On the extreme inside now, that is Young Zin in the Ferrari we're talking about that got wiped out. It's the points leading car. That was Richie Wee running very wide. He's allowed his teammate through, but there's been a spin. That's Frank Yu in the leading Craft Bamboo Racing Aston. Disappointment for them. They didn't get much further than turn 1 in the opening race. Now Pitty's looking up the inside of Hamaguchi into turn 3. No, Hamaguchi's managed to close the door, but runs very wide, very slippery out in that part of the circuit. Still need to be careful. The outfield here is still a little bit damp. Now that is a very fast charging Bentley Continental GT3 there. That looks like it may be Jeffrey Lee, a big dive up the inside. In fact, it's Adley Fong, who was one of the race winners at round 4 of the championship. That's Jeffrey Lee, a little bit further back in the J-Fly racing car. The third of the Bentleys is Jackie Young, but look at Jonathan Venter, he's gone. Hamaguchi doesn't want to get too caught up in racing this early in the race, but Todd Pitty, who did a brilliant job yesterday to keep Mok Weng Sun out from victory, has taken a dive up the inside. That's a fantastic move, but Hamaguchi's closed the door. That's allowed Fong to pull alongside in the Bentley. Very experienced campaigner, a part of the Lotus Formula 1 development team this year. Hasn't had any time behind the wheel yet, but he thinks that might come at some stage soon. Very wide run by Hamaguchi. That's opened the door again for Pitty. Of course, they've got to be careful. Cool tyres this part of the race. You've got to get some temperature in. Traditionally, it's a couple of laps to get the temperature in. As Fong looks around the outside, that's a big move around the outside of Todd Pitty. Now it's a drag race in a straight line on the front straight. The Ferrari seems to have about 5 kilometres per hour over the rest of their rivals on this long 1.5 kilometre main straight. So it'll be interesting to see what the end result of this is. But he's got to get past Fong, and that's one very wide Bentley. It's proven to be very difficult to get around the 3 Bentleys so far this year. Pitty's looking at the slipstream, right up behind Fong. They've come inside Hamaguchi. Will they close him out in the run into turn 1? Oh, contact for Hamaguchi. Now Young Zin's gone the inside, and they've tagged Mok Weng Sun as a result of all that. So 2 of the lead cars from yesterday have just been turned around in turn 1. That's disappointing. Hamaguchi stranded in the gravel. Now he might be beached there. Can he get the Triple F racing car? No, he's beached. This could bring out the safety car. We'll keep a close watch on what's going on down here in front of the commentary position with the officials, but that's disappointing. Now, Venta's done just what he did at the second round of the championship, the opening race in South Korea, and gotten away from the field. You can see the damage to the right rear of the number 55 car, the car that won the first race last time out at Okayama, and the safety car is now on the circuit. So safety car is on the circuit. That will be to recover the stranded car of Hiroshi Hamaguchi, and frustration for that team. They lost a car earlier in the weekend in pre-event practice. Unfortunately, that got eliminated in a testing crash, so they've had to bring in the BMAX racing team, Nissan Nismo GTR, that ran last year here. It's now running under the colours of the Triple F racing team. So it's been a tough weekend for them so far. Of course, winners of the third race that team contested at Okayama last time around. We need to look at where Sean Fu is in that Nissan GTR. He actually qualified quite well, finished in the top 10 yesterday after a brilliant job from Andre Couto. Now it still says green flag, but we saw the safety car enter the circuits. The guys are still racing. This is the close of the second lap. You see the two Lamborghini Gallardos on screen, battling for position. Now that is the OD racing car of Zen Low and Delantha Malagamura in the 24 car, former champion in the series. And behind them, that is Jeffrey Lee in the J-Fly racing car that he shares with Andy Soucek, involved in that contact yesterday. So up front, it's Jonathan Venter, 2.5 second lead so far. Behind him, Adderley Fong. These two guys are favourites in the series. Third, now this is a great story. Points leader, Anthony Liu and Davide Rizzo. They're not here this weekend, commitments at home in China. So they have elected to share that car with Max Visa and Young Zin, who were a part of the Triple F racing team for the early rounds of this season. Had a tough start to the season. They've jumped in the Ferrari and shown just how competitive they are. They had been on the podium a number of times. Now that's the race leader, or the race winner, from round 5 of the championship yesterday. It looks like right front damage. It's probably a tyre down, the way the car is leaning across. So Todd Pitty is bringing that car down pit lane. They could lose a lap if they're not careful here. Have to make a compulsory pit stop, but that window doesn't open until the 25-minute mark. We're still 20 minutes away from that particular point, so this is going to add to their woes and drop them further back down the field. What they can hope for now is that the safety car does come out to the field. We haven't seen the 55 Hamaguchi car recovered yet. It isn't classified with any more laps, so racing is still continuing. There isn't a safety car, despite the fact we saw it spear down the front straight. So it's Venter still leading, 2.6 seconds now over Adderley Fong. 1:43.3 last time round for Venter. Young Zin doing a brilliant job in the red and yellow Spirit of Race Ferrari 458 is in position 3. Richie Wee, the reigning Rookie of the Year in the number 12 Clearwater Racing Ferrari, is in position number 4. Then it's Zen Low. We're watching him on screen there battling with Delantha Malagamua. Now that is Frank Yu in the number 88 Interrush Aston Martin, multiple race winner in the series. Looks to be going very, very slowly. They've had a fairly tough weekend so far, a couple of brake issues earlier in the weekend. Now this is Jerry Wang, this is the points leader in the GTM class, is now coming down pit lane. We wonder whether or not he may have sustained some tyre damage, perhaps from debris on the circuit. Now here we have Jeffrey Lee battling with Zen Low. Immediately behind them, Mok Weng Sun has recovered from that spin after contact earlier in the race, and he is mounting a bit of a recovery. So Mok Weng Sun up to position number 8. Then Jackie Jung, who finished 5th yesterday, brilliant drive by the reigning GTM class champion to be in position number 9 in the third of the big Bentleys. And then the Ida team in the Bingo Racing McLaren MP412C. Nice to see them running. Failed to make qualifying with a gearbox problem. They weren't the only McLaren with gearbox issues. The Hamaguchi car, the Antunes and Rod Salmon car, the number 15 car, identical to the Hamaguchi Lutzi car. It also suffered from a gearbox issue, and they had to change it between qualifying and the opening race yesterday. Those guys ended up 8th overall on their debut in GT Asia Series as we see Frank Yu coming down pit lane. So this is a disappointment for the Craft Bamboo team boss. He's had a fairly tough start to the year, whereas the car that's leading this race, their teammates, the VLT Aston Martin Vantage of Darryl O'Young and Jonathan Venter, continues to lead and press forward, although he is now going to find himself with a Bentley Continental looming large in his rear vision mirror. Now this is the battle a little bit further back. This is the fight for positions 6, 7 and 8. So Mok Weng Sun's moved his way past Jeffrey Lee. Now he's looking to do the same thing past Zen Low. I'm talking about Sean Fu earlier. He was just on screen there in the Triple F Racing Nissan GTR. He's a little bit further back in the order as Mok goes around the outside. No, well, he's trying to go around the outside, but that's opened the door for Jeffrey Lee to take the position back, so there's been a position change. That will be Ken Urata, who won yesterday in the GTM class, running a little bit wide into turn 1 in the Delango Racing Lamborghini. That is the number 78 GTM class Ferrari. George Chu, Kenneth Lim, they're just coming down pit lane. So a bit of an issue for them. We're still only just 10 minutes into this race as the battle continues further back for position number 6. Mok Weng Sun will be hoping to put some serious points together. Reigning champion, won 20 of the 55 races in the GT Asia Series he has now contested. Good result yesterday to be second. Thought very carefully about trying to take the win away from Todd Petty. Oh, contact there between Jeffrey Lee and Zen Low. We saw these two involved in contact yesterday in the wet, but at that stage it was Jeffrey Lee just coming out after his pit stop. He was on wet weather tyres, and Ferruz Fauzi in the car in front, the OD Racing Lamborghini, was still on slicks. He got turned around for his trouble, dropped them back a little bit further down the order, but they made a nice recovery late in the race and gathered some more good championship points, the team from Malaysia. Mok Weng Sun gets to do it again. Can he make the move stick this time on the inside up on the run into turn 1? So just over 2 seconds the gap now between Jonathan Venter and Adderley Fong. Bentley a 1:42.5 last time round. Jonathan Venter a fairly consistent 1:42.7. It's about the pace he's been running since the first couple of laps were completed. Young Zin continues to run in position number 3 in the red and yellow Spirit of Race Ferrari. Nice to see them continuing on after a strong qualifying run. 9 seconds back from the race leaders. Then it's Richie Wee as his battle continues to rage. It's very entertaining. Nice work. Position changes going on at different parts of the circuit. Interesting to see where the strengths and weaknesses of the different cars are too. Keep a close eye on which one fires out of the corner better. Of course, you've got a V10 naturally aspirated Lamborghini with a mid-mounted engine and a twin-turbo 4-litre V8 as Sean Fu's had a spin in the Triple F Racing Nissan GTR. That's a bit tough for him. Currently shown in position number 12, so he's doing a sterling job this weekend. Not only is he coming to grips with GT Asia, because made a fairly limited debut last season, only completed 3 rounds of the championship. This year he's back to complete the whole series, and not only has he had to deal with some new circuits, but this time round he's had to deal with a new car, with them bringing that Nissan online for this race. But yesterday finished in position 10, which is his best result in the series to date, so a great run for them. Interesting to see what Andre Couto, who also was making his debut in the series, just like the Nissan under their banner. He was the fastest driver on the circuit yesterday. It was very impressive when the conditions got slippery. Of course, the Nissan's rear-wheel drive, like every other car in the field, it's not four-wheel drive, as many of the road-going Nissan GTRs have been in the past. And he stormed through to be 3rd by the time he made his compulsory pit stop. So a great job for that team. Be nice to see more of that as this battle continues to rage on. A nice job by Zen Low. He's doing a fantastic job in that OD Racing Lamborghini to be in position number 7, and he's doing everything he can to keep that big block of flats immediately behind him. Now that's Akira Ida, let me tell you, Ida, behind now in the local Bingo Racing McLaren MP412C. There's another touch again. How's he going to go around the outside? These guys have Super GT experience. He's going to show them how it's done. Zen Low will be hoping he can tuck in behind, but he's just discovered that the block of flats has moved across in front of him, and that race line is well and truly off limits. Now, Jackie Young's moved into the equation. Now, this is a fantastic result. The GTM class champion has stepped up from his Audi R8. He's been running quite a lot over recent years into the big Bentley this year. A little bit tentative at the first couple of rounds, but has really enjoyed it this weekend. Duncan Tappy driving alongside him, the British driver who drove for the M Sport Bentley factory team last year in the Blancpain Series, has been helping Jackie along, and he's really come ahead in leaps and bounds. Of course, 5th in the opening race yesterday, and he's right in the mix of the battle now, up to position number 10. So now it's the Eaters' turn to try and find a way past that very wide Jeffrey Lee Bentley Continental. Of course, Jeffrey's no stranger to this circuit. The last 2 seasons he has won a race at the Fuji International Circuit. The Taiwanese driver, it looks like he's going to drop a position here. He's opened the door for the McLaren. See what happens in the braking duel down into turn 1. Experienced driver, Ida, in Super GT, of course the Japanese Sports Car Championship. So he knows his way around this circuit only too well. So the 2-time winner is going to have to sit back in his wake and press on until his compulsory stop, where he'll hand over to Andy Soucek, who's part of the factory Bentley team this year in the Blancpain Series. So a number of very talented drivers in the field. 1.5 seconds now. We're talking about Bentleys. Adley Fong is starting to close down Jonathan Venter. But Venter only needs to do what he has to do. It's very close there from Jeffrey Lee under brakes into the hairpin. McLaren's fired out, and he'd be keen to try and open up some distance from the number 7 J-Fly Bentley to give himself a chance to continue to move forward and recover from that issue that kept them from qualifying strongly. They had to start rear of field in both yesterday's race and this race because of the gearbox issue they suffered that kept them from qualifying yesterday morning. See the number 77 JV Global Bentley, Jackie Young, presses on. So 45 minutes to go in this race. Another 15 minutes until the compulsory pit stop window opens. When the window opens, a minimum 85-second stop with every team in the field. We're the one driver, and there's only one entry with one driver. That was Jerry Wang. We saw him pulling into the pits earlier in the Absolute Racing Audi R8. With the exception to the 85-second rule is the drivers who placed on the podium yesterday, and that is the number 11 car, the number 1 car and the number 12 car will incur an additional, essentially it's a success parity penalty. And you see the number 1 car on screen, that's Mockweng's son now, past Delantha Malagamua up into position number 5. The number 1 car will be stopping for a sum total of 94 seconds during their stop, so they get an extra 9. The race winners, we saw Todd Petty pulling into the pits with that damaged right front wheel. He's a little bit further back in the field. In fact, we need to just check the timing monitor when it comes back up. He may not have rejoined, they're in position number 16, so he's still circulating. They may have further damage. We'll check on that. He would have had to stop for 97 seconds during his pit stop, compulsory stop, an additional 12 seconds. And then the number 12 car, the Clearwater Racing car, with Richie Wee currently at the wheel, position number 4, they will stop for an additional 4 seconds. So their complete compulsory pit stop time will be a minimum of 89 seconds. So there's Jonathan Venter about to cross the line, and he can see quite clearly the number 8 Bentley. Both these cars are round winners so far in the 2015 championship. He can see Adley Fong immediately behind him. Now, if the guys pit like this, I think you can just about put your money on the number 8 Bentley, because Kitasawa, local hero to the Japanese fans, is Jackie Young now over the back of Zen Low. He's one of the GTM class cars immediately behind him too. So this battle continues to run. You will expect to see Kitasawa be the quicker of the 2 combinations once Daryl O'Young takes the wheel from Jonathan Venter. Of course, O'Young and Venter won the 2nd round of the championship. Adley Fong and Kitasawa won the 4th round of the championship. But certainly the pace of Sawa and Fong has been very quick so far this weekend. Jonathan Venter too has been very quick. Daryl O'Young probably a little slower than we might have expected over the last couple of rounds. So he could still, of course, a winner at the Macau Grand Prix in the GT division in past years. He could still surprise as Jackie Young takes a big dive up the inside of Zen Low. Zen thought about it, but knew he wasn't wise to be closing the door on a Bentley. So he would continue to wage this battle as they climb towards the compulsory pit stops. 8 minutes now until that occurs. 142.8 last time round for Jonathan Venter. 142.6 for Adley Fong, just over a second behind. Young Zin still comfortably sitting in position number 3. He's 17 seconds back from the race leaders. He will hand over to Max Visa during the compulsory stop, which is coming soon. Then it is Richie Wee in position number 4. Finished on the podium yesterday after starting from pit lane. A late decision to make a tyre change from wets to slicks forced them to start from the pit lane. Then it is Mokweng Sun. We saw that passing move he put on Delantha Malagamua just half a lap ago. He's in position number 5. Then it is the former champion in the Lamborghini Gallardo from Delango Racing. The Eaters are still shown in position number 7. And it is Jeffrey Lee in the second of the Bentleys in position number 8. Zen Low has dropped back now to position number 9 and in a battle with Jackie Jung. We saw Jackie going round the Lamborghini into turn number 1. And it is Philip Ma, who's been a regular in this series over many, many years. Cherry picks his events these days, is joined by Ho Pin Tung, who's a very experienced sports car competitor in Asia. Surprisingly, this is his first event with the GT Asia Series. They suffered yesterday from a lack of ABS and traction control, as did Jonathan Venter. Not ideal for them in those conditions, forced Ho Pin into a spin, and after he committed his compulsory pit stop, sent Philip Ma out on wets. They had to finish outside the top 10, unfortunately, with the issues they were suffering. So they'll be hoping for a little bit more today. Position number 12, the second of the Triple F Racing team by ACM McLaren 650 SGD3s, driven this weekend by one of the guys leading in the Australian GT Championship, Nathan Antunes. Ran with us last year in the Delango Racing Lamborghini in a couple of rounds, was very quick alongside Delantha Malagamua. He's in the McLaren this time round. Rod Salmon's actually his car owner in Australia, but he too is a pretty accomplished driver, having done the Nürburgring 24-hour race. Now, I can see there's going to be a passing move on to the race lead. Jonathan Venter's taken the inside line, but he's lost a bit more speed over that last lap. 142.2 to a 142.8. 0.6 of a second Adley Fong took out of the race lead. Now Adley can consider what's going on. No doubt the Absolute Racing team will be on the radio to him to make sure nothing silly happens. They need to make a recovery after being involved in an incident in the opening race. That has dropped them a little bit further back in the points. They were contesting with the car that's on screen. They're competing for the championship points lead. So they want to be right in this fight. You don't want to do anything silly. As we say, the combinations will be Oh Young in the 99 car and Kitasawa in the 8 car after the compulsory pit stops. And at current values, you would expect the number 8 car will take the better deal out of that arrangement. So really, is there any need for Adley Fong to make a move? As a racing driver, I guess there is. That's what you do. You want to race, you want to compete, you want to get to the front. But there's a bigger issue at play here, and that's the championship. And for a mark like Bentley to come into the championship in their first full year and be in contention for the points lead, that is another thing that will be weighing into the equation. And no doubt his crew will be on the radio reminding him of that very point. Both these cars have won rounds of the championship so far this year, and both of them are right in the championship points hunt. Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu, who won the opening race in South Korea, then finished on the podium in the second race, coming into this round were comfortably the points leaders. Now their lead after yesterday's round 5 is just 5 points over Todd Pitty. Third in the championship is the car that's leading on screen here, the number 99 Craft Bamboo Aston, on 47 points for Darryl O'Young and Jonathan Venter. Then it is Adley Fong and Kitasawa just 2 points behind in the championship. There's valuable points on offer here. Neither of these cars need to be involved in contact and risk not claiming a position on the podium at the end of this 60 minutes. 39 minutes still to go. Another 4 minutes or probably 2 more laps before the pit window will open. Then it will be interesting to see which combinations pit early and which combinations pit late. Certainly plenty of low cloud around. Still no movement in the grandstands from this huge crowd. As we say, 31,000 people have been through the gate to see the 5th and 6th rounds of the GT Asia Series. It's been great to watch as this battle continues. Zenlo and Jackie Jung are still hard at it. This is good for both of them, and it appears that they've been able to continue this battle on without making contact. So good miles for 2 relatively inexperienced drivers in the outright GT3 class. Go on, Jackie, look out the front. Don't worry about what's in the mirrors. He's still there. You can see the lights. Protect your line on the run down to turn 1. Very closely matched in horsepower. Twin turbo V8 in front, naturally aspirated V10 behind. Front engine Bentley, mid-mounted engine or rear-engined Lamborghini. That's a wide move. Will he make the crossover and take the position back? I think probably a little bit too gentlemanly that time round, Jackie Young, not wanting to have contact. Now there's Philip Ma. We talked about them having issues yesterday. That's not a great spot to be spun. In the middle of turn one, which is relatively blind as the drivers turn in. So flags will be waving. No doubt the yellow flags will be out and let drivers know that there is an issue in the middle of turn one. Hopefully he can get that car restarted. Yes, he's got it going and can turn it around without having any other issues. The leaders come round one more time. So of course the yellow flag out means that Adley Flong does have no opportunity to make a move for the lead. He may not have been close enough. The distance was half a second as they crossed the line last time round. And that was one of the Triple F Racing team by ACM McLarens. That is Rod Salmon, the two-time Bathurst winner from Australia. A driver who competed in the Nürburgring 24-hour race a little bit earlier this year. His teammates, a couple of guys that are well known to GT racing. Alex Jung was one of them, Marchie Lee another. Were also in a similar car, or an identical car in the same team, in the Audi Customer Sport Racing team over there in the Nürburgring. The Asian squad, of which there were 4 drivers, finished in position 12 after the 24 hours, 134 entries roughly. And unfortunately for the Australian, his team were forced out after about the 3-hour mark, whilst well inside the top 10. Anyway, he enjoys his GT racing. He's enjoying his debut in the GT Asia Series, and we hope we might see a little bit more from him when we get to the next round of the championship in September, in early September, where we will see a new initiative for the GT Asia Series, a 3-hour race, which we're just working the details out on now, but a 3-hour race for a series that has traditionally been for race lengths of between 45 and 60 minutes. So a lot of drivers looking forward to that. A lot of teams bringing in some new blood to compete in that event. So we expect that the next round of the championship will be just as hotly contested as this one, as Adley Fong goes down into turn one, looking at the rear of the VLT Craft Bamboo Aston one more time. And given that he's not being quite as aggressive, their times are both in the mid-142s. You just wonder whether or not that radio communication has finally got through. And Adley, we're quite comfortable where we are, Sunshine. You can sit there and we'll let Sawa-san do the work over the closing stages of this race. Pit window is about 30 seconds away from opening. Then what teams need to consider is, with an amateur in many cases and pro driver combination, you probably want to pit your amateur driver early in the window to get the pro into the car as quick as possible. Some teams may elect for a tyre change. They have that option. It's not down to the weather conditions. They have 2 sets of the Control Michelin S9L tyres to run from qualifying through to the end of the second race. And given it was wet yesterday, a number of those teams won't have put too much effort or too much work on those tyres. You see pit lane open board, pit window is now open. So it's unlikely, given the wear rate of the Michelin tyre, you really don't get any great advantage, but some of the teams do feel there's just a little edge early in the tyre's life, and they do like to make that crossover. Plenty of time, 85 seconds, enough time to change the driver. You'll see teams check tyre pressures. They may try and make things a little bit different in the setup with the way they balance those tyre pressures, and send the driver back out, the second driver back out. Jerry Wang, again, the only single driver entry. Zen Low is one of the first down pit lane. Behind him, that appears to be the number 15 car of Rod Salmon, who will hand over to Nathan Antunis. The leaders are continuing because we've seen the pace of Jonathan Venter and certainly Adley Fong, as Sean Fu, another one into pit lane. He will hand over to Andre Couto, former Macau F3 race winner. I can see Philip Ma now coming down pit lane. The guys in front can pretty much match the pace of the drivers they share with. So there's no real need, whilst they're in a comfortable rhythm, to have to pit the drivers. The one advantage the Bentley team may get, however, is they can get the Bentley out of the air immediately behind the Aston Martin. That may give Sawa-san some fresh air to actually push on and cut some pretty good laps, because Fong, as we can see, is being held up to some extent by Jonathan Venter. So it might be a wise idea then to pit the Bentley, even though the pace of Fong is more than adequate at the moment. 142.7 last time round, or 142.8 for Jonathan Venter. Number of drivers coming down pit lane, including the GTM race winners from yesterday, the Delango racing car. In fact, that was the 24 car. Both cars are identical, so excuse the error on that front. 34 car is still circulating. The 24 car has just come down pit lane. That is Delantha Malagamua. He will hand over to Sasaki, the Super GT driver who ran so strongly yesterday, well inside the top 5. And that's the 95 car down pit lane. It's one of the Taiwan top speed racing entries. We have 3 of them. It's likely to be KS Wang to hand over to Shogo Mitsuyama, as again the battle rages down to the main straight. Now this is Hopin Tung rejoining from pit lane. Adderley Fong's thinking, well, maybe I do want to take that front position. Around the outside of a driver the calibre of Jonathan Venter's probably not going to work so well. He's of course closed the door, which he's entitled to do. Still holds his position. Still very racy, Adderley Fong. Has been involved in contact this year. A young driver wanting to press on. Races in the GP3 series overseas, a part of the Lotus Formula One development team. So looking to try and make an impression in his formative years as a driver. Certainly been good in sports cars in the Asian region in the past, a winner of the Audi R8 LMS Cup in the past. He's really pushing the back of Jonathan Venter, but the young Australian has been under pressure like this before. Very, very cool character, and has shown that he has plenty of pace behind the wheel of the Craft Bamboo car. But here we have a change of position. Will Venter make the crossover? No, Fong's planned that one perfectly, and he's taken the position away. So we might see a few more laps with the number 8 car with young Adderley Fong behind the wheel before he pulls in to hand the car across to his co-driver and the man that helped take him to victory last time out at Okayama. But Venter wants the position back. He's not giving up just yet. Now, will the Craft Bamboo team bring him in now that he's running in dirty air? Will they choose to bring the number 99 car in, hand him across to Darryl O'Young? Looks certainly like both of them are going to continue around one more time. 30 minutes down in this race as Jackie Jung now comes in from position number 4 to hand over to Duncan Tappy, the young English driver who's done so well in sports cars. Of course, another one of these drivers who's learnt in his open wheel career. We see Max Visa has taken on the car, the number 9 car from Young Zin. He could be a big threat. We've seen the pace of this Spirit of Race Ferrari 458 be very good, and the Ferrari around this circuit, as we saw yesterday, it was a podium lockout, 1, 2, 3. They are very quick around the Fuji circuit, the naturally aspirated 4.5 litre V8 mid-mounted Ferrari, mid-mounted V8 powered Ferrari. They have been very quick, about a 5 km/h advantage on the straight, but they lose out a little bit to cars like the Aston Martin and the Bentley. We see those on screen, the race leaders lose out a little bit under brakes, so that tends to equalise performance. We've seen that a couple of times this year where even over a lap of a minute and a half, there's very little separating the teams, and what we mean by very little is just mere tenths. So the parity adjustments being made to the GT Asia Series this year have been working out very well, because it's been very hard to predict who's going to win. In fact, we've had 5 different winners so far with the 5 rounds that have been completed so far this year. We may see the first 2-time winner if one of these 2 cars manages to hang on after the compulsory stop. Very deep into the turn there for Adderley Fong. He's really pushing the car hard. Now, one thing they've got to make sure of is there's good tyres for the pro drivers when they jump in after the compulsory stop. Probably not fair to say pro drivers when we're talking about the 2 drivers on screen. Silver combination in the driver grading, which means they're not considered as pro drivers, nor are their partners. Very experienced perhaps, but their driver grading doesn't mean that they are classified as pro drivers, hence why they are so closely matched on performance. We will see the pro drivers jump into some of these cars. Of course, Tony Verlander, Carlo Van Dam, who won last time out, Matt Griffin, there's a number of them, Andy Soucek, Duncan Tappy. They are professional drivers. You see the Gulf Racing JP, Porsche GT3R, coming into pit lane for their compulsory stop, 28.5 minutes on the clock. So the 2 leading cars are going to have to seriously consider coming in very soon. Still low cloud, still very misty, still doesn't appear to be any rain. Grandstand's not seen too much change, nobody rushing for cover. As further back the battle's now on between the Bentley and the Lamborghini, although this time round it's likely to be Jeffrey Lee and Faraz Fauzi. And unfortunately they were involved in contact during race 1, which saw Fauzi turned around by the Bentley in the fairly slippery conditions. At that stage he was on slicks, This time he's on slicks again, but no rain, and he'll be looking to try and make amends for that. Now there's the two Delengo Racing Lamborghinis. You can see reason for my error. Very, very similar in design. The car that is going around the outside there now is the FL2 GT3 of Sasaki, the Super GT driver, and the second car in line is the GTM class winner last round yesterday, and that is Takuma Aoki, the former 500cc motorcycle star. Now, who's going to pull across the pit lane? It looks like the Bentley's going to make the move, and is the Aston going to come with him? Yes, he is. So the two race leaders are into pit lane. Now, there's nowhere to go, Adley. You're not going to make a passing move coming down pit lane, my son, so flashing lights isn't really going to mean much. Everybody is on a limiter to a match speed, so there's no ability to make any room up there. The GTM class car may have been slowing a bit more quickly than Fong would have liked, but he still holds that advantage. These two cars, because they finished outside of the podium in the opening race here yesterday, will not stop for any longer than 85 seconds, but 85 seconds is their minimum. If you cross that pit exit line at 84.9 seconds, you will incur either a drive-through penalty or likely a penalty of upwards of 30 seconds post-race, which will drop your position down. So you want to be out close to your minimum allotted time, but you don't want to be too carried away. See the teams looking at the tyres, just making sure everything's right. No tyre change to either of these cars. A little bit of smoke, which will be from the heat inside the engine and also from the brakes. Nothing to worry about there. There's no big issue. It's interesting that the Bentley has gone for 4 new Michelin tyres. They would have those in reserve. They may have started with the tyres they used yesterday. It's had a few dramas. Now the car has dropped off the jacks. The mechanics have moved away. There's no rush. It's 85 seconds. It's the same for all but 3 cars in this field. So whilst the order may seem a little twisted at the minute, pit window's a minute away from closing. These will be one of the last combinations into pit lane. The order will sort itself out. Now here's an interesting move. What's going to have to happen here is Kitasawa is going to have to give position away to the number 99 Craft Aston. And it's interesting to, we're going to have a good close look at this, as that's Duncan Tappy has taken position away now. He's put in some absolute flyers, so they made that change earlier. So that will be 4 positions. So the JV Global Bentley Continental, the number 77 car that Jackie Young was driving, looks like it may have moved itself into position. This depends on how they went during their stop, because they would have stopped a similar amount of time. So he may well have just unlapped himself from the race leader. We'll see how things sort out once every car has completed its compulsory stop. So at the moment it's showing that Fong's the leader, but we can see that Fong has been taken by the 99 car. So Sawa will be in position 2. He's on screen there. He's got cold tyres. So whilst he might have a little bit of edge coming his way over the tyres that are on the number 99 Craft Aston, that has allowed the heat in the tyres that are still in that car from that opening session from Jonathan Venter is allowing Daryl O'Young to charge away. So he's going to open up a bit of a gap, and he knows that he's got Sawa behind him. He would have seen them making the tyre change. Sawa needs to be careful. He doesn't do anything radical on the opening lap. He has to get the tyres up to temperature, and then he might be able to make a charge. So you see him drop back. That is purely down to the colder tyres. Now here's the battle. Ferraz Fauzi now up on the rear of Andy Soucek. So this will be a tougher battle. He's not, of course, battling Jeffrey Lee, who he had contact with yesterday. He is battling the factory Bentley driver, Andy Soucek. So he might have some interesting things to learn from the young Spanish driver. Very accomplished. Of course, so too Ferraz Fauzi, former F1 tester, the Malaysian driver, has been very strong in the OD Racing Lamborghini so far this year. So we're going to see positions fall into place fairly shortly. So Daryl O'Young leading Kitasawa by 3.8 seconds. Currently, Max Visa is shown in position number 3. He is well back. Of course, these guys at the front of the field have turned through turn 1. They're down to turn 2 and turn 3. We're still yet to see Visa cross the line. There he goes now. So he's 29 seconds back from the race lead, and it looks like he's comfortably in position number 3. That'll be a nice recovery after the disappointment of yesterday, as Matt Griffin now crosses the line in position 4, 10 seconds back from the Italian. And it is shown as Tony Verlander, who of course was in the battle for the lead yesterday with Carlo Van Dam in position number 5. He just crosses the line now, 55 seconds back from the race leader. So a very strong pace at the front of the field early in this race from Jonathan Venter and, of course, Adelie Fong. We watched a lot of that unfold, as that will be Sasaki in the number 24 Delengo racing car. Immediately behind him is the 22 Golf Racing JP Porsche, which will have Kiichi Mori behind the wheel. He's done other racing with this team so far this year. He's at the opening round of the championship at South Korea back in May. On screen, that will be Nathan Antunes, the young Australian who drove for the Delengo team last year. He'll be looking to make up some ground after a fairly solid start from Rod Salmon. So it is Oh Young, it's Sawa, it's Max Visa in position 3. There is Oh Young on screen. There is Kitasawa, who's chasing him down immediately behind. 3.4 seconds still the gap. Tyres will be coming up to temperature for Sawa. The local driver won in front of his home crowd at Okayama last time out. Will be keen to take another victory here in Japan. Won the opening race here with Mokwang Sun last year, 12 months ago. The dry race, the wet race, of course, won by Jeffrey Lee and young German star Christopher Mies. We've had our wet race this weekend. That was won by Todd Pitty and Carlo Van Dam, who are a little bit further down the order, currently shown in position number 16. And unfortunately for them, it looks like that car has in fact been retired. So damage from contact. We saw that spin on the run into turn number 1 and contact. That will be the end for them. So disappointment. Victory on one hand and have put themselves into championship contention. Currently, Todd Pitty is second in the championship on 52 points, so this won't help. However, the team that he is battling for the championship, Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu, are not here this weekend, so there won't be a big change in that order. He is 5 points off the championship lead, but certainly the car on screen, the number 99 VLT Craft Bamboo Aston, it is in contention as Max Visa is battling with one of the GTM class cars with Kenneth Lim behind the wheel. Taiwan Top Speed Racing entries. Been strong supporters of the GT Asia Series over the last 12 months. The growing young team from Taiwan. So 1.4 seconds the gap. So this is what we were talking about with the tyres. 143.4 for Darryl O'Young. 141.5. That's nearly 2 seconds faster last time round from Kitasawa. Now he can catch the rear of Darryl O'Young. The next trick is getting past. This is Matt Griffin, the young Irish driver who was racing in the European Le Mans Series in Austria last weekend. Set pole in a Ferrari 458 GT2 and ran towards the front of the field. Lost the lead on the last lap after a safety car restart. He was pretty keen to make amends. He's been racing in different parts of the world over the last 3 weeks. Was in the States the week before that. So has been turning plenty of miles in the car and, of course, finished on the podium with Rocket Richie Wee last time out. As there's the gap, it's come down significantly. In fact, 140.916, fastest lap of the race, and a new lap record, race lap record for this circuit for the GT3 class for Matt Griffin, we were just talking about last time around. So here's the battle for the lead. Darryl O'Young is going to come under fire very shortly from Kitasawa, but Sawa too has to be mindful that he's got an edge on the tyre just at the minute, but that could start to fall away just a fraction if he doesn't use that to his advantage over the next couple of laps. It will put him back in a position where he should be matching performance with the number 99 Aston Martin. So he'll be keen. He'll understand that. He knows how to get around this circuit. He understands racing. One of the most accomplished drivers of GT cars in Asia. Certainly when there's an opportunity to go looking for a co-driver, one of the first calls that many of the local teams make is to Kitasawa. But joining the Bentley team this year, enjoying his time with them, and will we see a passing move as he ranges up behind Darryl O'Young into turn 1. He's going to try an inside move. We saw a Bentley and an Aston do this yesterday. It was teammates. It was Richard Lyons and Andy Soucek, and that ended very badly. So they'll be mindful of that. They won't want to be making moves that risk gaining championship points, and Darryl O'Young will be wise to that too. Sawa's going to go around the outside. He tried that yesterday and unfortunately speared off the circuit and into the side of the number 9 Ferrari. This time though, he has the inside line. Will he take it? He's got to be very careful. Darryl O'Young's doing a great job to drive around the outside and hold the position. He has the inside line now to the left-hander. Very deep under brakes for Kitasawa. The crossover has happened. That's handed the lead back to Darryl O'Young. Both these drivers have won a round of the championship so far this year. They want to be careful they don't take each other out in contact. We've seen that a little bit here this weekend. Asawa looks again to the outside. He's very experienced on this circuit. Is he going to get the inside? No, he hasn't managed to pull it off. That hands the advantage back to Daryl O'Young. This is a great race. 17 minutes still to go. Asawa has got to be mindful of the tyres. He doesn't want to push himself too hard. He wants to make a move. He wants to make that position stick, but he has to be very careful he doesn't eliminate himself in the process. Very, very quick driver. The fans are starting to get onto their feet. This is turning into another great battle. We've seen 5 of them already in the 2015 GT Asia Series, and here we go again with all these cars closely matched. There's battles right through the field. You can see the leaders. It's O'Young, it's Sawa, and then it's Max Visa, 26 seconds back. He has Matt Griffin closing in ever so slowly on the tail of him. Griffin needs to be a little bit mindful, not too far behind him. He has Tony Verlander, his teammate in the Clearwater Racing team, as now Sawa tries the inside line. O'Young moves across. He'll try for the crossover to take the position back. Sawa's wise to it this time. Closes the door, tries to move across as they take on down to turn 3. Side by side into turn 3. This doesn't work. We've seen it before. O'Young knows. Will he make the cross back? Yes, he's going to just fall into position. Very technical part of the circuit through the first sector of this race. Good opportunities to make position changes, but also they need to be very careful they don't wipe themselves out. These two cars are in championship contention. They're right in the points. They're mindful of that too. Their engineers will be reminding them on the radios, yes, you're racing drivers, yes, you want to win the race, but we want to take this championship, because we see the record dropping again. Tony Verlander, 140.78, goes faster again than his teammates, 16 seconds back from Matt Griffin. Drivers of that calibre, you won't see that gap close too much over the remaining 16 minutes of this race unless there's some kind of problem. So it's Craft Bamboo Aston is now in position number 2. Kita Sawa in position number 1. Max Visa in the Spirit of Race Ferrari, the championship points leading Ferrari from the BBT team, is in position number 3. Then it is the Ferrari of Matt Griffin, followed by Tony Verlander. Sasaki in the Delango Racing Lamborghini doing a brilliant job again to be in position number 6. Then it is Andy Soucek in the J-Fly racing car. We saw it involved in a lot of battles in the opening stanza of this race with Jeffrey Lee, the car owner, at the wheel. Then it is Feruz Fauzi, who has position number 8. The Ida Bingo Racing McLaren is still in position number 9. You can see Fauzi on screen there in position number 8. Nathan Antunes, the young Australian, is in position number 10. Then there's Duncan Tappy and Ho Pin Tung in positions 11 through 12. Andre Couto is starting to fire up now. He is back behind the wheel of the Triple F Racing Nissan GTR. Of course, set the fastest lap time in the opening race and did an impressive job to work his way through the field to be 3rd before the compulsory pit stop. Then we're down to the Maury Golf Racing JP Porsche GT3R, and then Frank Yu and Richard Lyons. Richard Lyons will now be at the wheel of that car, is the last listed entry in position number 15. You can see the 991 Porsche GT3. It's an interesting line for Feruz Fauzi. He's actually coming down into pit lane. He just passed the demarcation line, and one wonders whether they've got some type of trouble. He was certainly fairly racy coming into pit lane. A stop and go penalty for car number 86. So they may have left pit lane too early. We'll find out more. We'll post what has happened in those regards on facebook.com/GT Asia Series. Sounds like from what information we're getting that he stopped 3 seconds short. So that is going to be an additional penalty for that team, which is disappointing because they've been quite quick this weekend. But we were alluding to that earlier as, yes, you'd see them being told to wait until they have committed their time, that if you leave pit lane too early, and they've now dropped a lap to the leaders, you will be penalised. So if you're going to make an 85-second stop, you want to make very sure that your 85-second minimum. Anything over that is okay, but you make it short, that's not going to work well in your favour, and that's just played out for the OD racing team. So frustration for them, that will drop them back down the order. 2.3 seconds the lead now for Kita Sawa. That is very impressive. 18 seconds back to Max Visa. He has a 7-second lead now over Matt Griffin. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. 15 seconds now to the car that's on screen. Tony Verlander qualified on pole for the opening session. The number 1 car, the number 11 car, the TP12 Racing Singer Ferrari, which we saw eliminated earlier in the race. Unfortunately, the race winners yesterday. Those two teams have been at it since opening practice on Thursday, and there wasn't very much between Carlo Van Dam and Tony Verlander, the man on screen. Very experienced around this circuit, of course, part of the World Endurance Championship, AF Corsa Ferrari program over many years. Teammate to Jimmy Bruni, who unfortunately wasn't able to show us too much of his talents at the last round in Okayama after this particular car caught fire, a fuel fire. It wiped out the rear end of the circuit. Of course, a lot of aluminium in the chassis of these cars these days, and heat and aluminium don't go well. So the team have worked very, very well to rebuild this. The Clearwater Racing crew, very good operation, and managed to completely rebuild the rear of this very car over the last 3 weeks to have it ready for action here this weekend. And to see that car on the podium and setting pole yesterday was a great reward for all of the crew and all the efforts that they'd put in. So it'd be nice to see them continue their move forward. Fastest man on track though is Richard Lyons. He believes he's probably spent competed at the Fuji circuit at least 20 times in his career. Was very quick too in opening practice, and he's currently running around in the low 141s. Of course, we have seen faster laps than that so far this race. The two Clearwater Racing Ferraris both in the high 140s, having set new lap records for this 4.5 kilometre 16-turn Fuji International Circuit. Now, there's the race leader, Kitasawa. He won the last event we had in Japan, which of course was 3 weeks ago at Okayama. Very emotional. Took a while for him to be able to speak. Such was the emotion of having started his career at the Okayama circuit and then won in front of his home fans. And I'd imagine we'll see something similar again this time round, as we see Andy Soucek deep under brakes as he passes one of the GTM class Ferraris, which is just rejoining the circuit after a stop. And it's likely to be James Kay now behind the wheel of the number 95 car. And in fact, that was the number 69 car. So that might be Kenneth Lim behind the wheel. So the race continues on. It is quite comfortably now Kitasawa. 4.8 seconds, you can see the lead that he has there. Further back, just coming around the top corner on this very long 1.5 kilometre straight, was Max Visa, who is still a little bit further back, but we'll check the pace last time round. In fact, Visa last time round, a 1:41.7. He's getting a sniff of the car ailing in front of him. He's got 10 seconds, but last lap, 1.4 seconds he managed to pull in on the number 99 Aston Martin. So if we see Darryl O'Young slip any further back, he may well come under fire later in this race from the number 9 car. Of course, was the 37 car. And Anthony Liu and Davide Rizzo may well be watching this stream. Shout out to those boys. Disappointing you're not here, but they have their championship lead currently intact. Depending on the end result of this particular race, you may in fact see the number 8 Bentley Continental from Absolute Racing jump to the top of the championship points table after this race before their return at the next round of the championship, the 3-hour race at Sepang in early September. So it is Sawa, it is Darryl O'Young, it is Max Visa, it's Matt Griffin, it's Tony Verlander, and it's Sasaki. You see him on screen, having taken another of the Taiwan Top Speed Racing Ferrari 458 Challenge cars. Moving forward in position, a very accomplished Super GT driver. He is in position number 6, but over a minute now back from the race leader. Verlander is closing ever so closely in on Matt Griffin. It's down to 15 seconds, but it's only at the tune of a second to a second, or half a second a lap. And he's Soucek in position number 7. The Ida McLaren, the Bingo Racing McLaren MP412C is in position number 8. And Tunis up to position 9. Duncan Tappy now in position number 10 in the third of the Absolute Racing Bentley Continentals that he shares with the GTM class reigning champion, Jackie Young, who's done a pretty fantastic job so far this weekend. Look a little bit further down the order, we'll find out who is currently leading the GTM class. Andre Couto has moved up into position number 13. It is in fact the number 69 K and Lim car. We were looking at it earlier, the white Ferrari 458 Challenge car that leads that particular class at the moment. And Rio Fukuda, a former Honda Formula One test driver, driving with the Taiwan Top Speed Racing team with Craig Liu, is second in class. They finished second yesterday. Of course, the race in GTM class yesterday was won by Takuma Aoki and Ken Urata, who is a local driver. I'm very happy. You've never seen two guys celebrate so hard as those blokes on the podium. Very, very happy to have won. They'd suffered a bit of misfortune during practice and qualifying, couldn't get the car to handle. They made some dramatic moves overnight before qualifying, still qualified towards rear of field, made some more dramatic moves ahead of the opening race and managed to come through from rear of field to take victory in that class. Their second win of the year, which isn't bad considering they missed the opening round in South Korea. There is Andre Couto battling with Ho Pin Tung. Both these guys, very experienced GT campaigners in the Asian region, but both of them making their debut in the GT Asia Series this weekend. Of course, the Audi was a race winner here 12 months ago in the hands of Jeffrey Lee and Christopher Mees. Now they have Richard Lyons, very experienced campaigner at this circuit in Super GT, formerly GT 500, now in GT 300, drives an Audi, in fact, in the GT 300 class this year, has been here competing already this year at Fuji. He is ranged up behind them in the number 88 Interrush Craft Bamboo Aston Martin. Certainly looks like there's plenty of pace in that Nissan. Last time round, Couto 42.7, so he's travelling pretty quickly compared to the pace of the leaders, but currently back in position number 12. That was a move for position, moves up into position number 12. And Richard Lyons has just taken another position away on track. Well, he is classified a little bit further back down the order. He is in fact a lap down on Ho Pin Tung, who's sharing with Philip Ma, who's a long-time supporter of the series. Be interesting to see how far they can push that Craft Aston. So whilst they're 2 laps down, their other car is in second position in this race. What they will be well doing, whilst the reason why Richard Lyons is pressing on, is they will be gaining very valuable data ahead of the next round of the championship, the 3-hour race at Sepang, September 4 and 5. So nothing to be lost, even though they're 2 laps down. No need to park the car. Anything can happen. But importantly, the team can gain some more valuable data as they travel further forward in this championship. And of course, that data can double as useful information for the number 99 car. One advantage of having multiple cars in your team, of course, is you can share data. 5 minutes to go in the race. The distance between the leaders is now out to 7 seconds. 1:42.6 last time for Kitasawa. Here's the car on screen that may be the threat. He's about to cross the line. That's Max Visa. 13 seconds back with 5 minutes to go. He's managed to pull that gap right down. He's pulled about 10 seconds out of Daryl O'Young, but it's taken him about 10 minutes to do so. That's not enough time. Unless something dramatic happens with the number 99 Aston Martin, you would expect positions to stay the same. 6 seconds now between Max Visa and Matt Griffin. Last time round, they were almost matched exactly on pace, so you're not going to see much of a change there. So too, it's still 15.5 seconds between Matt Griffin and Tony Verlander, and certainly Max Visa, who's not considered a professional driver. He does this part-time, works in with Yang Xin in his business, his co-driver in China. He will be very happy to note that he is competing in an identical car with 2 of the best GT3 drivers in the region, and he is matching them for pace lap after lap. Well, 2 of the best GT3 Ferrari drivers in the world, in fact. Of course, both AF Corsa factory drivers, Matt Griffin and Tony Verlander. Different series, of course, but very experienced campaigners in the product from Maranello. On screen, 2 McLarens, 650S on the left with Nathan Antunes. This is for position number 8. Akira Aida, a former Le Mans class winner in the Bingo Racing McLaren that's in front. He knows this circuit very well. Former star in Super GT. He's taken over the reins from Taiyu Ida, and they are running fairly strongly, recovering, both those cars, in fact, recovering from gearbox woes during qualifying. It dropped the 15 car well down the order and unfortunately kept the 32 car which is on screen. Sorry, the 22 car, the leading chrome and red car. The Bingo Racing team, the local team, from making qualifying at all. So this is a nice recovery for them to be battling inside the top 10. Andre Kudo's just crossed the line again, a low 142, so not quite the pace we saw from him yesterday, although admittedly it was fairly slippery conditions yesterday. Nathan Antunes, a 3-time race winner in the Australian GT Series so far this year. Very competitive young driver. Raced as part of the Red Bull program in open wheelers many, many years ago in Europe. His team manager then, or rather his driver manager then, as we see him right up under the tail of Akira Ida. Oh, tapped! That's not going to work well. We didn't need to see that. That's damage for both cars. And unfortunately, if history's any judge, that will be an additional penalty for the number 15 car of Nathan Antunes. Now, there's contact that has stopped the Ida car, which is in fact the number 32 car, and some big body damage to the right rear of the number 15 car. So it's likely that will need to make a pit stop to make a change, and that will essentially end the run for Nathan Antunes. So frustrating for the young Australian, who now has Duncan Tappy flashing his lights to let him know he's going to come past. Visibility, of course, now, which is tight in any GT3 car, is going to be even more difficult because of that damage to the rear. He will be given, in all likelihood, a black flag, because that is not what we need to have floating around the car, and that will affect too the aerodynamics of the car. So the safety officials will call that car in, no doubt, and end of a run for them. It's disappointing because that was for position, and he was about to move up, but made contact with the Ida car. Hopefully they've managed to restart. They have, but it looks like damage to that car. He's being forced to pull into pit lane, so disappointing for them too. So Sawa continues to lead, 9 seconds up the road now from Darryl O'Young. Max Visa is now just 8 seconds behind the car on screen, the number 99 VLT Craft Bamboo Aston Martin. Matt Griffin still 6 seconds behind Visa. Further back, car 1, position number 5, more good championship points. Sasaki continues to run around in position number 6. So this is a nice result for the Delango Racing team in the FL2 GT3 Lamborghini Gallardo from Ryder Engineering. Position number 7 is now Andy Soucek in the second of the Bentleys. Antunes is shown in position number 8. That may well change. Then it's Duncan Tappy, who's actually moved forward. We saw him take Antunes for position into turn number 1. He is shown in position number 9. So all 3 Bentleys currently running inside the top 9. The one on screen, Kitasawa, has 15 seconds to go. He's about to cross the line. Will he get the checkered flag? I'm not so sure. Maybe he's going to back the pace off to make sure he gets to the line. 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. And he's allowed some of the cars back past him. That has hit the 60-minute mark of this race. No, he wasn't displayed or wasn't shown the checkered flag. Continues on for one more lap. So continues to lead the race. 9 seconds now over Darryl O'Young. A bit over 6 seconds between Max Visa and Darryl O'Young. So those positions look like they're probably set. Kitasawa will probably be fairly emotional if Okayama's any gauge. Japanese driver, loves racing in front of his home fans. Very popular. Oh, as we see, that's the number 15 car. Looks like it's run off down there into turn 4-5. And has continued back on, so he hasn't come down pit lane. We may see a change with that car post-race, but certainly for Kitasawa, this is likely to be the first 2-time winner of the 2015 season. One at Okayama for round 4. This could be the second victory for the Bentley team for the year. The crew's coming out onto pit lane to be on the pit wall to celebrate this fantastic victory. The Absolute Racing Bentley Continental team. Nice result for them, and this will move them right into the title chase. Natalie Fong and Kitasawa are one of the strongest combinations. There's 3 or 4 of them in this championship that are more than capable of taking the fight all the way to the final round in Thailand. And this will be an emphatic victory again for the Bentley Continental team. Nice result for Kitasawa and Natalie Fong, who did such a brilliant job in the opening stanza of this race. And there you have victory number 2 for that team for the year, and second victory again for the Bentley Continental Absolute Racing team. Second across the line. That will be Daryl O'Young, and you can see not too far behind him. That's Max Visa in the lights flashing in the Spirit of Race Ferrari. So a good result for him. If we'd had another lap or so, that could well have been a position change. And fourth across the line, we'll see Matt Griffin just crossing the line there now. And Tony Verlander, in all likelihood, will cross the line in position number 5. Very emotional, Kitasawa. So a great result for him. As the remaining cars cross the line, we'll just reflect on the end result. Kitasawa, Adderley Fong, victory number 2 for the year for them. It's Daryl O'Young and Jonathan Venter, position number 2. Max Visa and Young's in, a brilliant result for them to be in position number 3 in the points leading Ferrari. There's Matt Griffin and Richie Wee, the reigning Rookie of the Year in the first of the Clearwater Racing cars. The second of them, the number 1 car that finished second yesterday, Tony Verlander and Mokweng Sun. Sasaki and Malagamua will finish in position number 6. And it's likely to be Andy Suchek, as we just watch the screen refresh, and Jeffrey Lee, position number 7. Duncan Tappy and Jackie Young, a great result for position number 8. Nathan Antunis and Rod Salmon shown in position number 9. Ferris Fauzi and Zen Lowe in position 10. Andre Couto and Sean Fu for the Triple F Racing team by ACM in position number 11. We'll have a quick check of the result for the GTM class race winners. And that could still well be the 69 car as we wait again for the screen to refresh. A great result for the Bentley team. Nice to see them back in victory lane. So it is the K Lim Taiwan Top Speed Racing car has actually fallen to second behind Fukuda and Craig Liu, and the Ishiro Cooney car, the Golf Racing Porsche, will be in position number 3. So a great result for them. That is the conclusion of the third event on the 2015 GT Asia Series program. Hope you enjoyed the program. There will be some replays coming. Make sure you watch your local guides and facebook.com/GT Asia Series for updates as to when you can watch this event on the television in your local region. It's September 4 and 5.